Hey, I'm Caobie,
I'm Zero.
and this is Questionable Lore.
We're gonna be talking about the races in the Elder Scrolls games.
So what are we starting with today, then?
Uh, the Dunmer, the Dark Elves.
Alright. So, for anybody who's unfamiliar with Elder Scrolls, the Dark Elves are your traditional dark-skinned, evil-looking elves. They're not necessarily evil, and we're going to go into a in-depth look at not really why, but how they end up looking the way they look, because they didn't originally. So go ahead
Yeah,
and start.
they're
Go ahead
actually
and start.
completely different species.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't really changed species. They've just changed appearance, and that gave them a different species name.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. Go ahead and start reading the articles.
Oh goodness. So this is hilarious. The this is just basis Dark Elves look like better. Uh, they're ash skin, so kind of white gray, with red eyes, and of course they look like elves. They're often
Skype
called
is
dark
hating
skin.
us right now.
Is it really?
Yeah, you're lagging pretty bad. I think it's just because my computer's getting hot from running Skyrim.
Ooh, Skyrim. So
Yeah.
labor intensive.
Yeah.
But we good now?
Yeah, we're okay now.
Technical difficulty, suck people.
Indeed.
So they're called all the nasty gray skins, dark skins. They're called gloomy, and the Dunmer they're not bothered by this. They embrace it. That's why they took the name Dark Elf in common, and they're really good. They're not physically strong, but they're agile and they're smart. So they make great mages. But they're also pretty good, especially if anybody's played Oblivion, you know this. They are like, if you want to make a character that is well rounded in bow, magic, and melee, that the Dunmer is where it's at.
Yep.
But they have a clan mentality, basically a really loyal to their family, and that's about it. They're not very trusting of anybody else. And I just find this hilarious that this is a fact about the Dunmer, but the female, specifically young female dark elves, are known for their having trouble pronouncing words, promiscuity. So basically, dark elves be hoes, yo.
And only the female ones, of course.
Only with females. They lived in Morrowind, which did get its own game. Um, call it. So they were initially the Chimer, which is
Chimer, however you want to go for it.
yeah,
It's Chimer.
yeah, pretty much. And then they got into this battle at Red Mountain, which is a volcano in Morrowind, with the Nords, was it? I think it was the Nords.
It was either
Pretty
the
sure it was
Nords
the Nords.
or the Dwemer that lived in Morrowind before the Chimer did.
Nope. It was in fact the Dwemer.
Yeah. The
It was in fact
Morrowind was
because
previously known as Dwemereth, and before the Dunmer lived there and it became Morrowind, it was the nation for the Dwemer.
That's why Vardenfell has the name Vardenfell.
Yeah.
It's not a Dunmer name.
Nope.
So, basically, Battle of Red Mountain. Nobody really knows what happens. All we know is that the dwemer and the chimer, however you want to pronounce it, got into a fight. Somebody lost. Whether it be both of them, it's possible. Because... yeah, no. The dwemer...
This is the questionable part
yeah,
of questionable
nobody
lore.
nobody knows what happened. So, for all we know, is because they were using the Heart of Lorcan, is that is when... because that's the last recorded appearance of dwemer on Nirn at all. That is the last, like, a living dwemer. That was the last time one was ever recorded to be seen.
Nirn, for those who are unfamiliar with the lore, Nirn is the equivalent to Earth in the Elder Scrolls universe. Nirn is the planet.
Tamriel,
yeah.
continent.
Yeah. And Tamriel is the continent. With Cyrodiil, Skyrim, Morrowind, Blackmarsh, Elsewhere, Valenwood, Hammerfell, High Rock, and wherever the orcs are from, all being nations within.
Orsinium. And also the Somerset Isles.
The Somerset Isles are not technically part of Tamriel, though they're close enough to be considered, if I remember
yeah.
right.
When you pull up a map of Tamriel, the games, books, whatever, when you were, well, I think it was Morrowind, like, you could get the special edition of it, and don't quote me on this at all. You get the map, I know it was one of the games, but you'd get the map of Tamriel, and it showed Somerset Isles, so that's like, people like, okay, yeah, no, that must be part of the Somerset Isles. So, I think we just had a hiccup with Skype.
No, I had to get up and shut my door for whatever reason. It blew itself open.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So, basically, the Chimers start getting visions. Because they've apparently been cursed, or whatever.
The Chimer became the Dunmer when... I can't remember his first name, but when an important historical figure by the last name of Nerevar was sacrificed by the tribunal, the basic... if Nerevar was the head of the Chimer, they were the people right below him. They were the equivalent to the Elder Council for the Emperor. They sacrificed him to try and summon Azura, to ask for guidance or some nonsense. The act of sacrificing Nerevar, a war hero, angered Azura. She came to the Chimer anyway, to the tribunal specifically, was furious, and cursed the entire Chimer race with eyes as red as the lava of Red Mountain and ash-gray skin. And that's when the Chimer became the Dunmer. The tribunal effectively laughed at the curse of Azura, took the Heart of Lorcan and ascended to godhood. Two of the three of the tribunal maintain their Chimer appearance because they're gods, they can appear however the hell they want. The third generally has an appearance that is somewhere in between the two, half gold, half ash colored.
Yeah.
That's how the Chimer became the Dunmer.
Yeah. So, the Chimer, the reason they're called the Chimer, and this is just a quick backsight on, well, what's the Chimer? Why do we never, hardly ever hear of this? Well, what they were is basically they were Altmer, high elves, gold
Yeah.
skin, white hair.
Yeah.
But they decided, no, we don't like the rule of the Altmeri, which is the unification of Almer. Osmer for some reason.
Because generally orcs aren't considered mer, but that's for a little bit later.
Yeah. So they left and went to Morrowind, where a guy named Bella, the prophet who led them there, was speaking on the behalf of Boethia, Daedric prince of plots and deception. So basically the whole thing was a plan by Boethia to destroy that group of people. And that's what caused them... Because Lord Never, I can never pronounce his name. Yeah, Nerevar, sorry. Because he was the one that said, hey, let's listen to Elof, or rather his ancestors, whatever. They were the ones that said, hey, let's listen to them. That's why he was sacrificed. It's like, you brought this, your family brought this upon us, so we're going to sacrifice you to see if we can get another Daedra to help rid us of this curse that...
Oh no! Hey there, Caobie here. Putting in a little extra piece here because we had some issues. My internet had gone down because of a storm that was happening when we were initially recording. I'm putting this in later so that the cut isn't so abrupt and you get a little bit of an explanation. What Zero was attempting to say was more of a detailed explanation of what I had said previously about the Chimer getting switched to dwemer by a Curse of Azura because Nerevar had been sacrificed in the summoning ritual for Azura. That's the short version. The long version takes a few more minutes than that. The following bit, the next, and I would hope the rest of it after this, should all be recorded in one piece and not interrupted by anything. I don't know what the progression of the races after this is going to be, so I can't tell you what to look for, but I think I've got you covered on the why everything happened the way it is and why it's all weird. We ask for your forgiveness for those of you listening or watching, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you. Alright, now that we're done with the dwemer, let's move on to the next topic. What do we got?
Looks like the Altmer, the high elves.
Okay.
So, the high elves are from Somerset Isle, which is southwest of the main part of Tamriel.
Okay, and they are descendants of the Aldmer, spelled A-L-D rather than A-L-T. Kind of like the Aldmeri Dominion in Skyrim, for those who know.
Yeah, that's why they took the name the Aldmeri Dominion, because the Aldmeri were the original Mer, and all Mer are descendants of them. So any race that is not a man race, or the Argonians, or the Khajiit. So anything that's not a man or a beast race, including the orcs, for those of you who don't know, the orcs are indeed, they are Mer.
Yes.
They're the exact opposite of the Altmer. But anyway, that's why they call it the Aldmeri Dominion.
I also think that the Aldmeri Dominion was the name of the political structure that the Aldmer used. And how and before the Empire showed up, that's what the governing body for elves was. And then it became the Empire, and then the Aldmeri Dominion showed up again in the falmer, and
it didn't so much come up as the Empire never really controlled it.
No, but the High Elves were part of the Empire.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they never. The Aldmeri Dominion was still the think of it as how the UK works.
Yeah.
It's
They
the
vanished for
United
a time.
Kingdom, but it's more than one. It is indeed more than one country.
They vanished for a time, which is
Yeah, and then the Oblivion Crisis shows back up, and the Thalmor are like, "Hey guys, we can help you," and the Thalmor,
were
actually are responsible for the they saved they saved the Somerset Isles, because in the Somerset Isles there is a place that is called the Crystal Tower, which is made by it was made by the Slode and the original Aldmer and basically it's this giant tower that is the center of all magical learning in Nern. Every single magic comes from that place. Like,
is it similar to the similar in size to the White Gold Tower, so that we can have something to reference?
uh, if I remember correctly, the Crystal Tower is it is about the same size.
Okay. So
Actually,
for
no,
anybody
no,
who
I'm
has
wrong.
played
It's
the,
bigger.
it's bigger.
Oh, much bigger. Yeah,
Okay. So anybody who's played the fourth Elder Scrolls
yeah.
game under the subtitle Oblivion, uh, knows quite well the White Gold Tower. You can tell how big that thing is. You can see it from almost anywhere in Cyrodiil, and even in some places in Skyrim. Now imagine a tower that's bigger than that, and that's the Crystal Tower.
It is. You know the garden that circles the White Gold Tower?
Uh huh.
That is about the size of the main tower structure for the Crystal Tower.
So the base of the tower is the size of Green Emperor Way.
Uh-huh. The Dragon Teeth Mountains in the mainland of Tamriel
Uh
can
huh.
be seen from the Crystal Tower, if that gives you any idea of how big it is.
That doesn't help me, but I get the idea of how big it is based on the size of the base.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty big.
anybody who knows more about Elder Scrolls than we do in relation to past games would know for certain.
Yeah. Basically, they can you so anyone who's played Skyrim knows where the Reach is. They know where Markarth is. The mountain that Markarth has its back to, the mountain that Markarth is dug into. If you go across Skyrim's border, uh, following that mountain chain, all the way down to the end of Hammerfell, you can see that entire mountain chain from the top of this tower, and that's across the ocean. So you can understand how big that is. That
Now,
if that mountain wasn't there, you could see all the way to where Markarth is in Skyrim. And
mhm,
take into account that Hammerfell is not small at all.
no, and you should technically, though not within any game that I know of off the top of my head, you should be able to see the tower from the mountains, but not necessarily because of how thin in relation to the mountains it would be.
Yeah.
So you might be able to see it, but it might be nothing but a line.
Yeah. But the Crystal Tower was destroyed by the Daedra during the Oblivion Crisis, and the Thalmor show up and push the Daedra back, and ended up helping to rebuild most of the Crystal Tower using very, very strong magics to put it back up right. But unfortunately, they couldn't save it all because of if anyone who has played Oh, I can't remember what game it is.
If you're talking about the slowed, like I think you are, yeah, it's Morrowind. Slowed appear in Morrowind.
No, I'm thinking of because someone is going to know the Crystal Tower because they're like, oh, that's in another Elder Scrolls game because you have to go there. You have to go there to get the Staff of Chaos, and I cannot remember what
Oh, that's
game
one.
that
That's
was.
one of the early ones, like Daggerfall or Arena
Yeah,
or
it,
Battlespire.
it's one of those, and I can't remember which one it is. So whoever knows which one that is and is screaming at their screen right now, Zero, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. It's been years since I've played anything other than Arena, and I played Arena probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Is the last time I played it.
Yeah.
So
And with the Falmer helping to rebuild the Crystal Tower, that puts them in a place of power. And I think that the Thalmor were secretly part of the Aldmeri Dominion, which brought the Aldmeri Dominion back in power.
yes, they were.
And
The Falmer were the guards for the Aldmeri Dominion in the way that the blades or the what they're called in Skyrim, and I can't remember what it
Penitus
is.
Oculatus.
Yeah, those guys are for the Emperor. So think of that,
And
but
now,
get rid of the fact blades kill dragons for a living.
yeah, and now in the current generation, they are the Aldmeri Dominion's Inquisitors, going after
Yep.
anybody who worships Talos. We'll come to that later.
But the Altmer, getting more back on topic,
Yes.
they are the best mages, period.
They are the most magically inclined of the elves, which, with the exception of the orcs, are all relatively magically inclined.
Well, some say
The-
that the slowed are better. The Mortimer, the slowed, they're stronger, but
Their magic
is-
may be stronger, but that doesn't make them better mages.
yeah, but this has kind of been disproved in that the Altmer pushed the slowed out of the Somerset Isles, and the slowed were there before the Altmer were.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, the Altmer had a foothold, so they had the strategic. No, they didn't. They didn't have the old Mary Dominion in the second era with the Ballsmer of Valenwood. They fought Tiber Septim, and yeah, he tore them a new one.
I think those are the elves. Those are the elves that are referred to as Aliad in Oblivion. Is that right?
No, the Aelid are they're completely different.
Okay.
Tiber Septim in the second era, he took on the Altmeri Dominion, the Aldmeri Dominion.
Here's another thing we'll come
Second
back
era,
to later.
year 896 is when the Somerset Isles were added into the Imperial fold.
Yeah.
But
We'll get into detail a little bit more about who Tiber Septim is when we get to the Nords, but we're gonna probably cover most of the Mer before then.
yeah, I think that's how we're gonna go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so the High Elves, they originally came from the Aldmer. They are pretty basic when you think about it, and they're now known as the Altmer among Elvenkind. In the current generation, which is Skyrim's lore period, the fourth era onward, they're kind of douchebags.
So, real quick, the creation myth that the Altmer have for basically, oh, this is how the universe is created. Their religion, yay, religion. Basically, before the Dawn era, the beginning of time, the primordial. Sorry, I can't speak English.
English is hard.
force called Anu inside. Uh, it's basically the force of stasis and order. It created Anuel, which is the soul of all things. So all things have Anuel in them. That's basically when when they're tapping into their magicka, they're tapping into Anuel. So people with larger magicka pools are seen as being more in contact with Anuel and therefore it's Anu. So the beginning of the guy who basically is, I'm God, I created everything.
The
But
the
he
thing
created.
the thing being referred to here, it's a little bit, it's referred to differently. It's called by man races as Aetherius,
Yeah,
the magic plane.
Anuel is Aetherius, but it is Aetherius as in a not a place, but a who.
Yeah.
But he resides within Aetherius, but is Aetherius at the same time. So basically, if he dies, Aetherius itself dies.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's kind of like the Daedric princes, but
A little
how
bit
if they
different.
were destroyed, their realms are destroyed too. But
Yeah.
Anu created Anuel so the soul of all things, so that it could know, it basically so that it could understand itself. Then Anuel created Sithis for the same reason, so that it could know itself. Sithis is the force of chaos and change. Sum up all limitations. Just sum up all limitations.
The man variation of Sithis, by the same name of Sithis, is simply the void.
Yeah. The Sithis is death. He is the end of all things. He is. You cannot get past this point. You will be part of Sithis. That's it.
Sithis is the end to Anu's beginning.
Yeah, pretty much. Alpha Omega kind of thing going on there.
Yeah.
But and then Sithis created Arubis, which is basically where Sithis lives. It is the realm that Sithis. Arubis is the void.
Yeah.
It is the void that Sithis resides in. These were referred to as the original spirits, and the Aedra and the Daedra were made when Anuel and Sithis decided, well, this is boring, being just three people just out in the middle of wherever the hell we are. So let's create Mundus, which is the universe.
Mundus is the realm that Nirn, the planet that Tamriel exists in.
Yeah. Tamriel is the main continent. That is, well, really it's the side of the world. We really don't know what's on the other side of the planet.
Yep.
Other than water. So they just refer to that whole side as Tamriel, really, when it's really not. But and then they created the Aedra and the Daedra to create life, because Lorcan created life, giving himself. Really, that's most races have that same kind of.
Lorcan.
One of the Aedra, Lorcan. He has different names.
They're not too far. Like I don't know what the Argonians call them. I think the Argonians have an entirely different origin and revolving around the Hist, which we'll cover when we get to Argonians. But the Khajiit call Lorcan Lorcage, and everybody else calls him Lorcan. Every origin story so far, I don't know too terribly much about the Slode. Every
the Sloders is basically like we created ourselves. They don't have an origin story. They hate everyone. They exist within the sea.
There's our covering, not in detail, of the Slode. There's only like 2 details missing anyway. But all the Mer and Man races, with the exception of a few that we may peek into for a brief period, all have the Aedra and Daedra originate from Lorcan or Lorcage.
Yep.
The spirits, gods, whatever's that came before, a little bit different, but they all have the common point of Lorcan.
Yeah.
Though Sithis seems to be a pretty common one all across the board.
Basically, other than that, the well known of the Aedra for them, their names are Trinimac, which is the strong god, which he's the warrior spirit of the original elf tribes, and he led the elves against the men. But eventually, Boethia, the Daedra, tricks him and consumes him and takes his form and takes his power.
So
and then
the thing about this is Daedra are commonly referred to by the same name all across the board, except for the Khajiit. The Khajiit call a few of them differently, but they're close enough that you're like, oh, I recognize who that is. And the Aedra generally get different names. For a quick reference, Daedra are generally considered evil, Aedra are generally considered good.
Yeah. And then so in one story for Trinimac is that Boethia eats him, takes his form, takes his power, and uses that to convince the Aldmer, the original Aldmer, ALD, to follow Trinimac, which is actually Boethia, and then helps accelerate the Shimer conversion. But
tying back into previous segments.
Yep. But another more popular story is that Boethia corrupts Trinimac into, and this is something that I've always loved this, is that Trinimac becomes Malakath, which Malakath is, if you've played any of the Elder Scroll 4 and 5, you played any of that, you know who Malakath is. And Malakath is the Daedric prince who created the orcs and the trolls and the giants and all of the uglies.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that is the kind of sort of commonly accepted way that the orcs, the orsimer came. Osmer. Orsimer. We'll give you a proper spelling in like an annotation or something here.
Yeah.
That's how they came about, and that's pretty commonly accepted. Even the orcs themselves are like, yeah, Malakath made us.
Malakath. There's a quest in Oblivion where you get to actually talk to Malakath. Or not in Oblivion, I'm sorry. In Skyrim, you get to talk to Malakath. It's a pretty cool quest. You gotta go to one of the orc strongholds. And no, I'm not telling you which one. Find it yourself. And then there's Auriel, which it's Akatosh.
Ariel is the equivalent of Akatosh.
The
spelling...
He's the god of gods. He's
yes.
Odin, he's Zeus, he's whatever makes you understand that he is. I am chief, original. Listen to me roar, rar.
Depending on which elf variety you're talking about exactly, they spell it a little differently. Some of them hyphenate it, making it A-U-R-I hyphen E-L.
The Altmer and Altmer is A-U-R-I hyphen E-L.
And some races of elf will refer to him as Ariel, no hyphen.
Go play Dawnguard, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about Ariel, and as Ariel and not Akatosh if you want to know more, because that's...
We may do a segment later on the gods, but for now, races. I think we've pretty well covered the the high elves. They don't really have a whole lot to them, other than what we described. All of it relates back to gods. So
all of it is really the gods, and the other two gods, real quick, is Ciribane, which is he's the god ancestor of magic. Then there's
That would be the equivalent of
Finaster.
Julianos.
Well, they don't equivalent him to Julianos, but yeah.
But that would be the equivalent in the current.
Yeah. There is Finaster, which is the hero god. He taught the Altmer how to naturally live for another 100 years. He taught them how to live longer by taking shorter strides when they walk. Don't know how that works, but
I think it's probably a metaphor.
No, it is legitimately according to the thing that they take shorter strides when they walk, so it keeps them healthier, that they live longer. Some retarded. I don't know. I don't like magic. I like the Nords. Nords don't like magic. Then there's
they'll figure it out somehow.
Magus. Basically, think of the name. Really, mage. He's the mage. He was created by the power of Lord Khan, and then he's like this hole in between in the fabric of the planes that connects Oblivion, Aetherius, and Mundus all together. And the sun that you can see in Nirn, the center of that sun is where the hole is. Akatosh put the sun around it because Akatosh controls fire. Put the sun around it to make sure nothing can go in and nothing can go out. Because if you go in there, then you have the ability to take all of the
which is why
everything.
Akatosh or Ariel are referred to as the sun god.
Yep. And then there's Yifri. We're gonna have to annotate this. It's Y apostrophe FFRE. Also known as Jipfri. Yeah. JEPHRE. But he's the god of the forest. He is the spirit of the now, like how Ariel is the spirit of time and all that. Ariel's just got so much power, oh my goodness. But yeah, he's the spirit of the now, of life, forest, that kind of thing. The Bosmer, love him to death.
He's the equivalent of Kinnereth or Kine.
Sorry, I have this thing. I love the Nords so much that it annoys me when not using Nord terms, and it probably shouldn't. I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan.
So if you hear me say Kinnereth and then Kine,
he's doing it to make me happy.
Yeah.
Alright, that's really the greater part of it. I mean,
I don't think there's much more we can go into with the High Elves without
other than the fact that they're really religious. I mean, just
it should be pretty apparent.
Yeah, they're really religious. They think themselves better than everyone else because they have what they call the pure bloodline, which is ridiculous. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
if you can hear barking in the background, I don't know what my dog is going crazy over.
Silly dogs. Alright. So, on to the next?
Yeah, who's next?
It'd either be the Ayleid or the Bosmer. And I think we've really kind of gone over the Ayleid, and we'll hit on them more with the Nords, because they don't like the Nords too much.
Well, weren't the Ayleid just, simply another variety of the High Elf?
Yeah, they're the Heartland High Elves. They're the High Elves that went and, like, all of the ruins that you see when you're in Cyrodiil, so when you play Oblivion, all of the ruins that you see, they made them. They're a lot more honored by the sword than they are honored by magic.
Yeah.
But they are ridiculously good at enchanting things, which is why Wellkind stones, Valara stones, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Wellkind stones, for a quick little tip in game, Wellkind stones will completely refill your magicka pool, and Varla stones will completely refill enchantments of all of your enchanted weapons in your inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all there is to know about the Ayleid. They kind of have the same origin.
Another thing is that you can find Ayleid ruins in Skyrim, but they don't look the same way as they do in a lot of the Nordic ruins are actually Ayleid ruins, but the Nords
converted them heavily.
Because it's like, well, why are we gonna dig into the ground if the Ayleids have already done it for us?
Yeah.
The Ayleids were slavers. They hate man races. Hate them.
Yeah. But they don't exist anymore. And we'll cover that when we get to the Nords. So
Tiber
next...
hated them.
Huh?
Bosmer. I said Tiber Septim hated them.
Yeah. The Bosmer, or Wood Elves. They come from Valenwood. Valenwood is...
Valenwood, which is the forest.
It's a mega forest. Like, the entire country is pretty much just one big forest. Other than the Wood Elves that live there, there is another race that's a beast race that you don't ever see in-game, but you do see references to through books. But the Imga, I believe, live in Valenwood. They are gorilla people. God dang it. Well, we're just gonna talk through this one. Valenwood is not only home to a massive forest, but the forests are actually sort of alive. The cities of the Wood Elves are built into migratory trees. The trees themselves walk about.
They're ints, just not sentient. They just kind of move.
Yeah. Welcome back, by the way. I just went ahead and talked through the Skype fuckery.
Yeah, stupid Skype.
Yeah.
It's a good program, but it's pretty messed up. Another thing about them, and I don't know if we've already covered this, but they have something called the Green Pack, which is what allows them to move so well through the forest, and it allows them to become basically in forested areas, and it also allows them to do what they... If you've ever played Oblivion or Skyrim, and you're like, well, why can a Wood Elf control simple-minded creatures? Well, it's because of the Green Pack. They are religiously carnivorous and cannibalistic, but they refuse to harm vegetation. They hate using it, and like they'll only use stuff that is like made of wood or plant products if one of two things: one, the tree is already dead and fallen over, or it has been burned, because they see it as a way of the gods telling them, well, we give you this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we give you this, so here, use it. But if, like, say, a Nord was to make a wooden shield and a wooden sword and hand it to a Bosmer, even if that Nord just went and cut down the tree, they'd use it, because they didn't do it. It's a very... They're not as... They're also not as... They're not as civilized as the Altmer and the Altmer were.
Though, that's not to say that they are...
They also created the bow.
Uncivilized.
They are rumored to have created the bow.
Makes sense. The biggest thing for the Wood Elves is the migratory cities.
And they hate the Igma. Imga. Sorry.
Which are what I made reference to before the Skype cut out. The Imga are a race of gorilla people. There's not a whole lot to talk about them.
Because we don't really know a lot.
Yeah, we can only take what we know from the books in game, and from what I know from that, they were taught society. So they were taught how to form a society by the High Elves. And because of the High Elves' disdain for man races, anytime a man, so a Nord Imperial, Breton, or Redguard are anywhere near them. The capes that they wear have perfumed corners, and they hold the perfumed corners up to their noses as if offended by their scent.
Yep. So another thing about the Bosmer that is kind of interesting is that they and Caobie might love this if he doesn't already know it. Is they love one of their gods that they worship is actually the Daedra Hermaeus Mora.
Yeah,
Because they love knowledge. They love knowledge.
He goes under the name, I think it's Hermamora.
Hermamora. Yeah, that's what they call him. But most people know him as Hermaeus Mora. Most others call him Hermaeus Mora. They also worship the moon gods Joan and Jode, which are
the
Master and Unda.
Yeah. Those are
in that order, if I remember correctly.
Master is the larger red one, and Secunda is the smaller white one.
Nope. Joan is Secunda. And Jode is the big one.
These are spelled Jone and Jode.
Yep. Somebody remembers.
Yeah.
But
no,
this
we wouldn't be doing this if I didn't know my stuff.
the Bosmer also have this saying that one man's miracle is another man's accident.
Yeah.
And they don't like they're cool with other people and that they're cool with diversity and everything and everybody living together. They're just very protective of Valenwood. Because basically, if one fire starts in the wrong place in Valenwood, the entire
whole country goes, yeah.
The entire country is...
You can kind of think of it as the real-world equivalent of the Hawaiians. The Hawaiians are a little bit like that. They're all in favor of having, and I'm talking native Hawaiians, the people who were born there, lived there, and are descendants of people who were born there and lived there. They are more than welcoming of people to come by, but there are certain areas of the islands that they're just like, no.
Yeah, really, the only place that they let people go in Valenwood is Felinasti, which is one of the traveling cities that Caobie talked about. But something happened, and it just kind of said, you know what, I'm tired of walking, and it rooted itself. So it no longer moves, but
it's still a tree city nonetheless.
It's still a city in the top of a tree, and it's pretty impressive because the trees they move and sway like normal trees, but they do it even when there's no wind. But the base of the tree itself stays in the same place.
Yeah.
For some reason, some of the Bosmer are like, oh, it's magic. Others are like, no, it's a curse, and it's just.
Nobody can decide what it is, but the trees are alive regardless. As far as where the Bosmer came from, depending on who you talk to, this is referencing the Khajiit, depending on who you talk to, they are split off from the Khajiit, or they're descendants of the Aldmer, or rather the Khajiit are split off from them. But I think that they are descendants of the Aldmer, so there's not really much more to talk about their origin there.
Yeah.
The Wood Elves are surprisingly simple and yet complex people.
Yep. Alright then, on to the next.
I would think we're ready for the next one. Which Mer is next?
The really short is the Chimer, which they're the changed folk.
We've already made a reasonable mention of them when we were talking about the Dunmer. Do we want to cover the Falmer or the Sea Elves?
Falmer, real quick, are the Snow Elves or Ice Elves, and if you've played Skyrim, you're like, oh, there's crazy things that want to kill me, and they hit me with dead bug parts. Yeah, that's the Falmer.
That's the new Falmer. The old Falmer don't look too much different than High Elves, except that their skin is white.
Yeah. And
And
their armor,
their
by the way,
society.
looks like a mixture in between ebony armor and what is called elven armor in game.
Now, the old falmer aren't much different from high elves. In fact,
Hmm.
the old falmer are older than the high elves.
Yep. The
Them and the dwemer are, which we'll cover a little bit more in detail if we want to near the end. But the falmer and the dwemer, the dwarves, are the original elves, other than the aldmer, but the original Tamrielic elves.
hmm
And they descend from the even more original Tamrielic elves, which is one species. I don't remember what their name are, what the race's name is. Do you
I
have
don't
it
remember
available?
either.
Okay, we'll put it in either in annotations or in the description.
Yep. The Falmer, they were pushed underground to where the dwemer were by the nords.
Yeah,
Well, by by Ysgramor.
specifically, yes. We'll cover who Isgramor is when we get to
Specifically
Nords.
Ysgramor.
Yes, we will get there when we get
I
there. The Sea Elves, minor mention, they are effectively mer people.
That's why they're called
As,
mer.
as in mer like mermaid, not mer like elf.
They're the sea elves, the tropical elves. They reside in the island of Pandonia, which is south of Tamriel. It's actually directly south of the Somerset Isles. They
So
have
in a
blank.
previous failed recording, I was referencing that island, not the Somerset Isles.
Yeah, they have blank eyes, and they're they have no pupils, no irises. They're just white or black. They are a single color, and it's generally white or black, though it can be other colors. They have chameleon-like skin, which is actually pretty cool because it is their skin itself is capable of becoming chameleon. I mean, they can
They can
blend
blend
into
into
their
their
environment.
surroundings.
The the That's about it. Oh, they practice snake magic, which they use to tame sea serpents, and they have cities that are built on the back of the sea serpents. And
These are obviously very, very large sea serpents.
or very very large cities, but they
Or
use
rather,
they
very, very
use
small
those
cities.
to hide at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And so when people come to the islands, they can just go, "Oh, time to go."
Yep.
But generally, if you're on a boat, you're not getting to the islands because those sea serpents will eat your face off, literally. Oh, there's also one other thing. Uh, Yakuta, which is north of the Somerset Isles, well, northwest of the Somerset Isles. There is a race of called Yakutans, and which the Yakutans are a mixture in between what Nords are and what Aldmer are, and they become the Red Guard.
Ah.
But the Yakutans are also descendants of another. This is really weird. Like, it's really weird. They're descendants of a race called the Left-Handed Elves, which are just left-handed Aldmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
The Aldmer were like, "Oh, you're freaks. Get out of here," and sent them
Yeah.
to Yakuta.
Their name is literal.
Their name is literal. They don't have a mer name.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all. That's all the mer, other than the dwemer. But everybody knows the dwemer. They're the
We'll
they're the
cover
orcs.
extinct or otherwise non-existent within the game's races once we get all of the normally playable races. So we'll come back to like dwemer if there's more detail to cover over the falmer, things like the slowed, uh, the needs, which will actually be covered when we talk about the nords. So
Yeah.
we'll cover all the playable races, and then we'll cover anything else we feel like covering. So if we're done with all the ones that are immediately referred to as mer, Why don't we talk about the mer that isn't mer? The orcs.
The Ozma. They are also called the pariah folk, and they are beast-like people from the Wargrath Mountains, the Dragontail Mountains, and Orsinium, which Orsinium literally translates to Orc Town.
Yep.
But they're considered to be goblinkin, and they have slowly won acceptance into the Empire. Except for in Skyrim, because a lot of the ones that are in Skyrim are like, we were here first.
Yeah. But they usually don't venture far beyond the mountains.
Well, yeah, mostly. But they're really good at making armor. And the orcs in heavy armor, they are the front line for the Empire. You're not getting past this. And if you do, mages. Yeah, they're the ones that. So Imperial battles, the squads are sent in orcs, then mages, and then archers.
Yeah.
So the orcs are the mainline battle. They're the battle tanks.
Yeah, that's not to say that it's only orcs, but they are what makes up most of the front line. And if they're not making up the front line, they're making the armor in the back.
Yep. They're either smiths or retardedly strong fighters. And they have this rivalry with the Red Guards because, well, the Red Guards are the strongest man race. Like, they are legitimately the best fighters in the man races. Even as a Nord lover that I am, the Red Guards, they are, we're the best. But they're the best when it comes to sword play.
They're the best
Which,
around. Anyways.
I want to be the best, like no one ever was.
Yeah, that too. Back on actual topic, we kind of covered where the orcs came from when we mentioned Malakath. That's really all there is to know.
Yeah, really.
There's not a whole lot of information because lore-wise, all of it has been destroyed in the many, many raids on Orsinium, where most of their knowledge would have been kept. So they only know what's passed down through generations.
You know, they
And
really
that's
should
not
probably
always-
protect Orsinium a little bit better.
They do. It's just so easy to invade, I guess.
It's like, you know what? No. Well, it's because when you've got magic and you can throw lightning at people, metal, bright green metal armor, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious where you are, especially because they're not really good at making it like blend into the surroundings. It's very pointy because basically they just take the metal ingots and just beat the hell out of it
until it's in the shape of the thing they want.
They just beat it to death. This is especially relevant in Skyrim, especially if you just go take a look at the two-handed sword for the orcs. It is basically just a piece of metal that had the crap beat out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure, like, if that would cut anything. I'm pretty sure it's just a metal pole.
I'm fairly certain that they hone the edge. They don't just leave it blunt, though it wouldn't surprise me that they would.
They don't think that far ahead.
They're really good smiths. They're not stupid. They're just not magically inclined.
Yeah, which is going back to what I said earlier. They're the exact opposite of the Altmer. The Altmer are really, really good with magic, but they're not so good with anything else. And the orcs are really, really good with beating the crap out of stuff, but not much anything else.
Yeah.
Except for that one orc that somehow got into the College of Mages because he can summon Atronachs that will rip off your arms if you disrespect his books.
Yeah, but still. He's pretty old. I'm pretty sure that took a long time to get to do.
I've always wanted to see him literally rip me apart with Atronachs because that would be pretty cool. Maybe that's just me, but gore in Skyrim needs to happen.
Okay, so now that we've got most of the Mer covered in much less time than I thought we would have, oh well, we can move
Well, it's
on to the
because there's
man
like a
races.
dozen races and none of them really matter.
Yeah, no, there's this and that other elf that we'll cover as an extinct race. But we'll move on to the man races, and I suppose we'll go in order of origination. We kinda already covered where the Red Guard come from, so they don't really fit in the order of origination. But the man race that came first was the Nords, but not really the Nords.
Um,
Remember the nedes I mentioned before? The nedes were the first man race which became the Nords.
sorta. I mean,
The
the needs were sort of the sort of the first man race, but there's also a race called the Kothringi, which they existed at the exact same time as the needs. Like, some are like, oh, the needs came first. Some are like the Kothrigni came first, but there's really no way to know because they existed within two different areas. And
Yeah.
the Kothrigni are silver-skinned tribal people from Black Marsh, and they were once considered the only humans native to Tamriel, but it is now known that they shared it with the Needs. So,
Yes. Do they even exist anymore?
no, the entire race was either killed by something called the Canathan flu, or left on a ship, and they fled westward away from Tamriel, never to be seen again.
Yeah. So the needs are the ancestors to the Nords.
Yeah.
They came from Atmora. Is that correct?
Yeah, they came from Atmora, which is actually, no one really knows where it is. All we know is that it's in the north. Or
Well,
was.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore. That's why nobody knows where it's at.
Yeah, but they, funny thing is, the Needs, Ysgramor wasn't actually a Nord. Oh, he was a Need. That
Bum,
came
bum, bum.
to Skyrim from Atmora.
There's not a whole lot of a difference between a need and a Nord.
It's the same thing. There's no difference in between
Yeah.
an Imperial and a Nord, other than the Imperials are snobs that find money everywhere.
They really do.
It's like, okay, just really quick, playing Skyrim, we'll play as a Nord, find a chest, look at how much gold is in it, right? Save and quit, load up an Imperial, go to that same chest, more gold. Every time. This is a trait that they have, and it says so when you're looking in the character creation screen.
It
But
does say
they
this.
find more money. But Dark Brotherhood questline, very end of it. If you decide to soup the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary back up,
Spoilers.
there is a. Oh yeah, sorry. There is a.
We're good. It's almost what it's actually pretty damn near a year after the game came out. If you don't know anything about Skyrim or don't want to be spoiled still at this point, you shouldn't be watching this anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. But there's a table and it has a couple of gold on it. I played it as a Nord. It's like, oh, there's probably like 10 gold here. And then I played it as an Imperial because I played that game with almost every character except for Khajiit because I hate Khajiit. But
Spoken like a true Nord.
I played through it and I get to that table and the gold is running off of that table. Like, it's on the floor. And no one had even been in that room yet to walk into it to knock it over. So it is retarded how much money they find. But that's a little side note on the game and completely off topic, but...
Completely. The important thing to note about the needs is they came to Skyrim. Skyrim is where the modern day man races originated.
Mm-hmm.
So They came to Skyrim fleeing Atmora for whatever reason under the guidance of Ysgramor. And this is where the companions originally started.
Yep.
Ysgramor got to Skyrim to find that it was already taken over by the falmer and the dwemer.
And then he's like, no.
Which the falmer and the dwemer, I remembered what the name is for the common ancestor. There we go. For them, it was the elnofey, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
We'll give you a spelling because it's not spelled how you think it is. We'll give you a spelling in annotations or in the description. Quick run over the elnofey. The elnofey are the common ancestor for the falmer and dwemer, only because half of the elnofey were like, we like to cast magic, and the other half were like, we don't really like to cast magic. And that's how the dwemer and falmer were made.
Elnofey, by the way, are descendants of Old Mary that they went and were gonna become Falmer, but were like, don't like the forest too much, and went north.
Yeah. Everything comes back to the Old Mary, but the falmer themselves are...
They're like, oh, well, I don't want to be on an island, so let's go to the forest. Oh, well, I don't like the forest, so let's go to the bitter frickin' cold that is Skyrim. Oh,
Yeah.
this works. And now
The
it's divided
falmer-
into two sects.
Yeah. The falmer and dwemer are not older than the Aldmer, but they are older than the altmer.
They're older than the Altmer, considerably.
Yes. The conflict that Ysgramor ran into when he came to Skyrim was with the falmer. The falmer...
Because the Dwemer lived underground, and they were like, well, if you don't bother us, we're not going to bother you.
Yeah, basically.
And the Falmer are like, you hate magic? You hate magic? And then kind of started, yeah.
That is probably actually why they fled Atmora, and thus why they would hate magic, because magical death. I don't know. Nobody really knows what happened to Atmora, or why Ysgramor came to Skyrim from Atmora, but he did.
And we
now there's
also know
nords.
that he hunted down everything that likes magic. It's like, magic is bad. Die.
Yeah. That's
He
why
hated
Wuthrod,
magic.
that's why Wuthrod, the two-handed axe you can get in Skyrim, has the effect of doing extra damage versus elves.
So, quick rundown for those of you who don't know why Ruthrod is able to do that. It was actually made by the Dwemer.
Yep.
The Dwemer come up with the schematics and taught him how to do it, and then he had a nordsmith make it. That's why it looks Nordic, but it is actually Dwemer in design.
Yep. The Nords,
Because he didn't have a
and the-
problem with the Dwemer, even though that they were Mer, because they were like, we don't like magic too much. We use it, but then again, so did he.
Yeah.
He
They
used
use
magic,
it in a
he just
different
don't
way.
like people. He liked enchanting stuff. He didn't
Yes.
like, I can throw lightning!
Because everybody knows an enchanted weapon hits nearly twice as hard.
And also, he didn't like the Sith. Unlimited power.
That's like double in jokes.
That's a really bad joke, is what it is.
So the Nedes and the Falmer got into a conflict, and seeing as the Falmer aren't exactly the most physically capable, and Atmora is still a frozen wasteland when it existed, the Nedes are still accommodated to cold, so...
And the Falmer were not yet.
Well, they were and they weren't. They were accommodated to the cold, but they were not accommodated to the mountainous terrain, nor the tactics of the Needs, which never really gets taken into detail, but...
It can be seen by, it is the same tactics that the companions use, and the companions use, you go left, I go right, and that guy, yeah, he'll beat him in the face.
Yep.
They will flank you and they will beat your ass.
Now, think about this for a moment. The falmer were thousands, if not millions, strong. The only definite number we can get for the needs is 500.
501.
501. Whatever.
Ysgramor in the 500. It didn't say Ysgramor in the 499.
Whatever, they could have rounded up. History is like that.
It was probably more like 5,000 needs, but Ysgramor is like, no, we're gonna make this much, much better story to tell. Make it 500.
Either way, they were vastly outnumbered, and
because everybody knows history is written by the victor.
They were vastly outnumbered, and they still managed to win. Sort of. The falmer still exist, but they don't exactly exist the way they used to. They pushed the falmer to the brink of extinction, and thus forced them...
They did. They thought that they had made them extinct, but the falmer were like, dwemer, help! And the dwemer were like, you know what? We can hide you, and we can use you to dig the ore for us. And then they gave them these mushrooms that made their sight go away. But, spoilers. In Dawnguard, you find out that it didn't actually make their minds go crazy. They went crazy because they went crazy.
They went crazy because of the terrible conditions and the treatment that the dwarves gave them.
The dwarves treated them like shit.
They treated them worse than that. They treated them like slaves, which is what they effectively were.
They effectively were because they made them. They found out that the falmer were like, ooh, bugs, and then made the bugs work for them. And it's like,
yeah.
So they lived with the bugs.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad, actually, when you think about it like that.
Definitely. The dwemer... Those are probably the most well-known but least seen race in all of the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works.
They're dwarves. That is all they are. There is nothing more to describe than that.
I wonder if they like
in fact, oh god. In fact, they don't actually have any lore beyond. They're dwarves. Because nobody knows. They mysteriously vanished.
And they like to build stuff.
They mysteriously vanished somewhere during the Second Era? Is that right?
Late Second Era, early Third Era.
Yeah, they just vanished. They
don't know when.
Yeah, they either all died, all ascended to godhood or some other form of leaving this plane.
That's a lot of gods, by the way.
Yeah, or they just kind of stopped existing. Nobody really knows.
They also created a way to harness the power and touch the heart of Lorkhan.
Yes. And in Morrowind, there's a slode that... Keening.
It's the dagger that you need in order to hold the heart of Lorkhan.
Yes, and in order
you need a dagger, a gauntlet, and a hammer.
Yeah. In order to hold Keening without taking nasty effects, you need Wraithguard, which is something you get that's important in, Sorry, interruptions. You need Wraithguard, which is a gauntlet, to hold Keening and not suffer the negative effects. There are glitches within the game, but whatever.
It also the Wraithguard, if you've ever played the game Torchlight and played as the Alchemist, it looks like the gauntlet he wears.
Yeah. You can get Keening, but there's no real point to it because you can't get the Heart of Lorkhan. You can get Keening in Skyrim.
Yeah, which kind of makes me sad because you can touch it without Wraithguard and it's like, grrr.
Yeah, but there are still negative effects to it.
Yeah, but in Skyrim they don't wear pants, so it doesn't matter.
Oh boy.
What? There are no pants in Skyrim.
Yes, but the chest piece includes pants. That's why it's referred to as armor and not chest plate. unless it is referred to chestplate, and then it doesn't actually have pants.
That was, for those of you who don't know, that was a reference to Caobie, to something that happens in Caobie's Oblivion play. You should watch it.
Since it's
not
being plugged,
self-advertising if I do it.
since it's being plugged, the channel is Caobie Plays. It's probably going to be linked on the channel's other channels things, but that's not important right now. What is important right now is the Nords. After the conflict with the Falmer is resolved, they became the Nords. The Nords migrated, and this is all origin story for the Imperials and Bretons. The Nords migrated into what is now known as Cyrodiil and High Rock. High Rock is where the Bretons are from, right?
Yep.
And through breeding, the Cyrodiilians became known as Imperials. The Skyrim people became known as Nords rather than Nedes, and the ones who went to High Rock became Bretons, the magically inclined of the man races.
So, also, real quick about the Nords, for anyone that hasn't played as a Nord, especially in Skyrim, the men, they're big, burly, and have beards. And the women, and they're big, burly, and have beards. That is the Nords. They are, hey, we're bigger than you, we have a big weapon, it's probably not sharp, and I'm gonna beat your face with it.
It's probably not sharp. Doesn't mean it isn't, but
yeah, no,
it's just as likely.
The Stormcloaks can be seen using two-handed swords, but most of the
it's
random Nords that you walk around and meet have warhammers.
It's just as likely that they'll beat you to death with a blunt weapon as a bladed weapon.
Or they'll beat you with the blunt end of a bladed weapon. Wow, English is hard.
Herbal blurble blop.
They put spikes on the end of their war axes, which I think is really cool, because it's like, we're not gonna cut you. Nah, we're not gonna cut you. We're gonna impale you.
Yep. So that's all of the man races covered in one go. Didn't think that was gonna happen. There are minor discrepancies between the Imperials, Bretons, and Nords. Mostly between the Bretons and Nords and the Imperials and Nords. There's not a whole lot of difference between gods for them, but Kinnereth is always called Kine by Nords. Until
the Empire takes control.
Yes, until the Empire takes control, and the commonly accepted term is Kinnereth. And that's why you'll still see some Nords use Kinnereth in Skyrim, like the game, not the country. And that's why the Stormcloaks?
Stormcloaks call her Kine.
Yes, the Stormcloaks call her Kine. There are no other differences between the gods, but I think that's the big cover there. Tiber Septim. Tiber Septim is technically a Nord, but he is also an Imperial.
But he's also a god.
He is also a god, which is something that'll be covered in just a few seconds. Tiber Septim was previously known by a Nord name of Talos. That sounds familiar because yes,
Talos of Atmora.
That is familiar because that is also the name of a god.
Because he's not actually a Nord, he's a Nede. But
yeah.
He's a Nede. He's a Nede that before they started
he
being
is
called Nord,
the first Imperial.
Yeah. Regardless, he's the first Imperial because he created the Septim Empire.
Yes.
He's Dragonborn.
Yes.
Dragonborn.
He is the first Dragonborn, I believe, because, Saint Alicia is the first Dragonborn.
Saint Alicia. Saint Alicia is the one that helped, she helped, Ysgramor, destroy the aliens. Sorry, brain is going dead. It is really late for me.
No worries. The Saint Alicia also is the one who, along with Akatosh, created the the Amulet of Kings, which is the binder for the sealing of Mundus from the Plains of Oblivion.
Yep.
That's important plot points for the game for the game under under a similar name, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Uh,
Which is an amazing game, by the way.
Tiber Septim ascended to godhood through deeds in life, but then the Oblivion Crisis happened. Things were cool for a little while, and then the war with the Aldmeri Dominion and the Empire happened. A lot of things went to hell. We're not here to discuss it. Long story short, Talos is a god. He's not considered a god, and the Falmer are on an inquisition to hunt out and kill any worshippers of Talos.
The
Stormcloak Rebellion. The Stormcloak Rebellion started because the Empire promised Ulfric Stormcloak and the people who fought in Markarth against the Forsworn. They promised free worship of Talos within Markarth. This was denied by the Falmer, and that started the Stormcloak Rebellion.
Yep. But this brings up a good point and there is no really answer to this, and this is where the questions start coming in, is what did they do with the statue that Martin became? Because I realized that is the statue, the avatar of Akatosh, but he was able to do that because of Talos.
No, he wasn't actually able to do that because of Talos. He was able to do that because of Saint Alicia.
He was able to do that, but the dragon blood got stronger after Talos, because that's why Talos is seen as a dragon.
Yes.
That's why. Funny thing is, actually, this is why the blades became the guardians of the emperors, because the blades originally were dragon hunters, and they realized that the best way to kill a dragon is with the dragonborn. So they find Tiber Septim, the young.
The blades were
Talos
also before they were dragon hunters. They were also Akaviri.
Yep.
Which we'll cover among the extinct or otherwise not available in game races.
Well, they were a race of Adkaviri, because there are a lot of Adkaviri races, including dragons themselves are Akaviri, but but really what they did is they tried to help him, and
the blades assisted Tiber Septim in hunting dragons. That led to both the blades becoming the protector of the emperor when he started the first empire. And after dying from all that, the blades stayed and became the protectors of the emperor. Skype is being stupid, so we'll find out where Zero was leaving off in a moment, or we won't. We good?
I'm back.
Okay. What were you saying? I said that that after Tiber Septim was a dragon hunter. The blades helped him, and after he died and ascended to being a god, the blades became the protectors of the emperor until they failed during the Oblivion Crisis, which led to the rise of the Penitus Oculatus, which are the current protectors of the emperor. And if you play Skyrim and you play through the Dark Brotherhood, they are not that good.
In Cyrodiil, you will see, and pretty much anywhere in the Empire, this is why. There's a really funny thing about Skyrim. You'll see statues of dragons, and they equivalent that to Talos. And in Skyrim game itself, the cover of the game is the Empire's red diamond, but it's a dragon, which is Talos.
Well, the red diamond is a dragon.
Yeah.
But in the opening thing to Skyrim, it's silver and it's cracked, kind of representing the fact that the Empire is falling apart.
Yeah. But This is why in Skyrim, if you go to Whiterun, you'll see a statue of Talos, but it's a Nord standing on a serpent with the sword into the serpent's mouth. It's because originally, Talos of Atmora was a dragon hunter.
Yeah, I brought that up during our time.
When he came to when he came to godhood, because of being a dragonborn, his form was turned into that of a dragon, same as Akatosh.
Yeah. So Talos became a god, and that was the
and the
end
idea
of
that is
the
heresy
origins.
to the Altmer Dominion.
Yes, because the elves can't stand the idea of a man race rather, becoming a god when none of their race has ever ascended, and they think they are more capable
They think that they
of
are
ascending.
descendants of gods, so that they do things that make them be closer to ascension, to reascension.
Yes.
And the fact that a man ascended and not them is just
unthinkable.
Saying it as a mer, which the Dark Elves actually do. This is why the Dark Elves are not loved by the Altmer. Is basically makes you a heretic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's
all of the playable races covered. A few races of note.
Oh,
we've
wait.
already.
The
Huh?
Khajiit. I don't believe
we did not cover the Khajiit and Argonian.
Or
How could we forget the
Argonian.
beast races? How could
Let's
we
forget
forget that? I think it's because you're getting tired and I don't have the information readily available because I'm recording. The Khajiit are almost going. The Khajiit are almost going to need an episode unto themselves. Long story short, their origin story is covered in a single book. I don't remember the title of the book, but it is effectively covered in a single book within Oblivion and Skyrim.
Okay. Their version of Akatosh is Alkosh, and
Yeah.
he's the Dragon King of Cats.
Yep.
And there's Ozra, which is the goddess
is-
of Dusk and Dawn. Banpar, which is the pariah. I hate this word.
Which one?
Kinethari, which is the goddess of the winds.
That would be the equivalent to Kinnereth.
Yeah. And then Jode and Joan. Jode is the big moon. Joan is
Yep.
the little moon. Lorakaj, which is the moon beast. Mara, which is the mother cat, otherwise Mara, goddess of love.
Yep.
Meruns, which is equivalent to
Mehrunes Dagon.
except for they show him as a kitten.
Yes.
He's a kitten!
Because what is more destructive than a kitten?
I wouldn't know, because I hate cats. But,
Well, no, that's their reason for him being depicted as a kitten.
oh, I know. I don't like cats. Rajin, which is the footpad or the silent walker, he's the thief god.
Yes. I don't think he has an equivalent.
He doesn't. He also
Well,
apparently...
no, his equivalent might be nocturnal.
Yeah, maybe. But he's also the one that, like, ties into Sithis somehow, and I really don't know. Then there's Riddler Thar, which is the Two Moons Dance, the Sugar King. He's the cosmic order deity. Then Shrendar? I don't know how to do the apostrophe thing. I'm really bad. Shlendar, which is the god of mercy. It's just basically Stendar. Then
It's Stendar, but misspelled / pronounced.
Shigarath, which is the Skooma cat, the god of madness.
Shegarath, equivalent to Sheogorath.
He's the Skooma cat.
Yes.
Skooma cat. I want to see a cat on Skooma now.
It'd be about what you would think it would. There's a lot beyond the gods to cover. The origin shorthand is all of the gods were created. Blah 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 blah. Lorcan and one of the gods were parents to the rest of the gods. One of them was... I keep getting interrupted. The mother of all of the gods passed on, this and that and this and that, and then one of them ended up being Nuren, two of them ended up being the moons, and effectively appointing all of the Daedra. The last one, there was a rivalry between two of them. One got away with some stuff and went on to make the Mer. The last one was Azura. Azura was I don't remember which of the gods was the one that Azura had a rivalry with, but when given when not Azura but the other one, when given the gift from their dying mother, she had walked away, effectively laughing to herself at the fact that Azura got nothing. What she didn't know is that Azura was given 3 secrets. One, I don't remember what exactly they are, but one of them was to take, and it resulted in Azura taking some of the Bosmer, the early Bosmer, and taking them and changing them into Khajiit. And that's how Khajiit happened.
Yep.
The Khajiit are tied so closely to, and this is where going into details would need a short episode unto itself. The Khajiit are so closely tied to the moons that, based on the phases of both moons, they are born differently.
Yep. There actually
are 16 different varieties of Khajiit, ranging in size from normal house cat to man.
More than 20, but we only know of 16.
Yeah. There are 16 known and documented varieties, ranging from simply a house cat up to, like, a jaguar or a lion or other big cats, even bigger. Mm-hmm. And then there's man-sized and shaped ones that walk on 2 feet.
There's one, and this is the only one that, I really only want to cover 2 of them. There's one called Ohms, which is born when Secunda, the small moon, is full, and Masser is new, which means all you can see in the sky is Secunda. And they look almost exactly like the Bosmer, except for they're shorter. They're actually shorter than the Bosmer. And that's crazy, because the Bosmer
they'll do to differentiate themselves.
They tattoo their faces.
Yes. Sorry for the confusion and audio there. That was me. The way they differentiate themselves, because they otherwise don't look any different, they tattoo feline-like features onto them.
Mm-hmm. Also, it is generally considered that they are the Ohms and the Ohms rot, which is when Master is waning.
Of all of the things that we know, there are 8 normal, and then 8 that all have the same name as their, they all have a similar name, with the suffix rot, R-A-H-T, added to the end.
Mm-hmm. But the Ohms rot and the Ohms are generally considered to be the ones that you get to play as. So
yeah, that may or may not be true.
May or not be true, and the other one is the main, which is when both moons are in a line, and there's like a third moon and really religious crap. But basically, he's basically a lion that walks on 2 legs, has a giant mane, and used to, all of the Khajiit would cut their own mane, and he would braid it into his own. but as that got more and more Khajiit, that became like really retarded to do. So they cut their mains when the main is also they're the leaders. They're the when there's a main, he has the ability to challenge the current leader of the Khajiit for right to be God King or whatever. But they cut it all off and burn it, but the ones in his direct family are still woven into his own.
Yeah. Because it eventually became so heavy that he was actually incapable of walking normally.
Yeah, he can't. They generally couldn't walk. So the Cathay, which are huge.
There's Cathay, which are basically just your standard big cat, and then there's Cathay Rot, which are slightly larger than that.
Yep.
Interruptions. Not even a knock first.
Uh-oh.
No, it's no big deal. I'm just tired of getting interrupted over and over again. Anyways, it's mostly my fault for not letting anybody know. I didn't think I was going to have visitors. The Cathay Rot are just bigger. In fact, rot varieties of all the varieties are bigger than their counterpart.
Uh-huh.
I think that's everything.
The Sanchez Rot, which are the battle cats. If you have ever seen He-Man, imagine Battle Cat from He-Man, but like 4 times as big.
Yeah.
The Sanchez are generally actually used as they're used the same way that horses are by the other Khajiit. And this is not by we dominate you because you're big, brutish, and kind of stupid. No, it's by their own will. They realize that, and they only walk on
they're good for.
4 legs. They realize that they're good at doing that, so they do it by will and by honor. And the Sanchez Rot are bigger, so they're battle cats.
Yeah. I think that's everything we can cover without going into extreme detail.
Without making it 4.5 hours long?
Yes, because the Khajiit, of all the races, strangely have the most well-documented. And yet at the same time, least potentially accurate. Yeah, we may have to go into specifically beast races. But the Khajiit are the only race that is well documented, that also has the least, that also is potentially the least accurate. Speaking of Argonians, let's move on to them, and of course the Hist, because you can't talk about Argonians without talking about the Hist. The Argonians are lizard people. They live in Black Marsh, and are, as such, accommodated to the harsh, poisonous, and disease-ridden environment, which is represented as poison and disease resistances in Skyrim and Oblivion and whatever other game they show up in.
So, the Hist is what makes the Argonians into the Argonians instead of just lizards. And if you wanna, there's really no way to describe what a Hist tree. It's a tree. It's not a creature. It's a tree.
It's a sentient tree.
Sort of.
Sort of.
I mean, sentient in the way that the ones in Valenwood are. But if you want to know what one looks like, really, if you've played Oblivion, this isn't really going to help you if you haven't played it. But in the Blackwood Company in Leowin, I think that's where the Blackwood Company. They're the ones that want to be the Fighters Guild. In their basement, spoilers, is a history.
Please, spoilers after this long?
Yeah, no, just feel the need to have to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a history down there. That's what that tree is. But yeah, and when the Argonians are hatchlings, depending when they grow up, the more human-like they are, is the less his sap that they've ingested, and the more lizard-like they are, is the means they have had. Oh wait, sorry, reverse. More his sap, more human-like. Less his sap, more lizard-like.
Yep.
Maybe. Also, until they get to a certain age, they're both genders.
Yep.
And actually, it's a lot of people, according to lore, it's not really confirmed or denied that this is true, but life phases, actually, as their life changes phases, they are actually supposedly able to change gender.
Nobody really knows for sure because the Argonians don't even really know.
Don't actually live that long. The Argonians that you meet in the game don't live that long, or don't tell you that they have. Because generally, the only Argonians that you ever meet in any of the games are Dark Brotherhood.
Or beggars.
Arses. Arses.
The thing about them being in the Dark Brotherhood is when they're born, and I say born as in they hatch under the sign of the shadow, they're trained from birth as an assassin, and those are called shadow scales.
They the Argonians love Sithis. He is all hail Sithis, bow before Sithis, 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 Sithis. That is
that
Argonia
is
in a whole. It is
Sithis is effectively their god.
Effectively.
They do have others, and they're related to both the Hist and the Aedra and Daedra, but they are not nearly as complex nor as many. In fact, we don't even know that they actually exist.
There are a bunch of different types of Argonians. Some of them, a lot of the ones that don't look very human, including the Serapha, the Nagas, and the Agaseps, live really, really close to the Grand History, which is a giant history in the center of Black March.
Yep.
And no other race is allowed that far in. Ever.
Nope.
The country itself will not allow you that far in. Valenwood has moving trees, well, Black Marsh has trees that spit toxin in your face.
Yeah. Hey there, Caobie here again, putting another little snippet in. My hard drive filled, we got cut off. You didn't miss much. We talked, other than finishing the Argonians, we talked about the Akavir. I'll give you a link in the description to where we get our information from, so you can look it up yourself if you really want to. But this is at the end. Thanks for watching. See you next time.